Everyone says scars are proof of ruin. We learned they can be proof of survival. Today is the story of Holt Mercer and Ivy Blackridge, where a woman's wound became her quiet strength. Out on the raw edges of the American West, it all began with a small act, $2 laid on a splintered table. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. You ever lay down money for a woman partner? I did. Oregon Territory, 1869. A grit-blown outpost where pine pitch burned your lungs and men bartered bodies like livestock. She stood on a splintered platform, a burlap hood knotted over her head, a plain dress pulled tight over lines that made hard men forget their hymns. The ridgemen jeered, spit-flying $2 for spoiled goods. But her voice slipped through the noise, low and familiar, like a tune I'd carried in my bones since a winter cave long ago. When she murmured her name, Ivy Blackridge, my chest seized. I slapped down the $2 without seeing her face and took her as my wife, while the crowd hooted at the fool who bought a question mark. Maybe I was that fool, or maybe I was just a man starved of company too long hearing echoes in a stranger's sound. When all you've got left is whiskey and remorse, sometimes you wager everything on a whisper. I led her home through a carpet of needles, her wrists tied with frayed rope. She kept the sack tight, but I noticed how she angled her head to read the trail through the weave. Sharp woman. Careful woman. The kind that survives by staying unseen. My cabin leaned into a rocky rise, a horseshoe nailed over the door for luck that never stuck. Inside, I said the only words that mattered. Stand where you want. Nobody sets you now. She chose the far wall, folded low like a hurt animal, testing whether this den would bite. I cooked smoked meat, a dusting of cinnamon, the thin scent of civility in wild country. I set 2 bowls, same as every night since the war. One for me, one for the wife who never made it home. What's this? She asked, her voice dulled by burlap. Supper for whoever's still standing, I said. I always cooked for 2. Now for you. That's when she stopped my heart. She lifted her hands, loosened the knot, and let the sack drop. Lord help me, you think you know beauty till you see it wearing scars like medals. Her face was half mercy, half ruin-clean skin on one side, a jagged seam on the other, where some brute had left his mark. Her eyes were river dark, heavy with secrets and grit. She ate slow, measuring me, measuring her, waiting to see if I'd flinch at the damage. I didn't. I'd seen worse sometimes in mirrors after bad nights and uglier fights. You don't know me, she said, her voice clear, now uncovered. Don't need to, I answered. Not yet. I was lying. I knew that voice. I knew those hands that had kept a fire alive in a cave while I hovered near death. I was breathing because of her. She was the woman who'd saved me 3 winters back, though we left it unsaid. Spring rolled in, and she moved through my days like she'd always belonged. I watched her mend my torn shirt fingers, steady the sack forgotten on the table, while we worked safe inside the cabin. She hummed as she stitched, "Oh, Shenandoah." That tune cut me clean, confirming what I'd known since the first night. One evening, storm clouds bruising the sky, I found her at the river. She'd set the sack aside to see the bucket's rim hair loose on her shoulders, dress pulled taut as she bent for water. The cloth clung to her thighs, traced the swell of her chest, and something feral woke in me. I'd been alone 3 years. 3 years of empty beds and colder nights, keeping faith with Miriam Mercer buried far from here. But watching Ivy scarred, strong, beautiful by the river want, hit me like a kicked horse. Ivy, I called, my voice harsher than I meant. She startled, and the bucket tipped. Water flooded her dress cotton, plastering to her shape, turning sheer in places that left my mouth dry. Her breathing hitched color rising in her cheeks, and for a heartbeat, We just held each other across that thin, impossible line between restraint and hunger. I stepped nearer, boots sinking into river muck heart, pounding hard. I lifted my hand, brushed her cheek, my thumb tracing the edge of her scar. She didn't pull back. Her lips parted soft, inviting, then a branch snapped in the pines, too sharp, too timed. I jerked away my hand, dropping to my knife. Ivy snatched for the sack and pulled it over her head with practiced speed as hoofbeats thundered close. Rafe Calder rode out of the shadows like something spit from hell. A bounty hunter known for hauling men in cold more often than breathing. His eyes dragged over Ivy, lingering on the soaked dress beneath the hurried hood. "Looking for work," he said, smiling with all teeth. "Heard you took yourself a wife." I moved between them, every nerve screaming. "Not your business," could be Calder drawled, fingers hovering near his pistol. Talk drifted about a scarred girl, about blood she'd shed. Ivy's hand found my arm through the loose weave, shaking but sure. Calder's words closed in on us like fresh boards on a cell. The sack stayed on, but Ivy straightened shoulders, squared chin up, ready for daylight. "Tell him I said. I killed a man." Her voice came steady through burlap. "Missouri. He attacked me, cut my face. Tried to, well, you can see." She swallowed. I fought back. The blade went deeper than I planned. She pulled the sack free again and met my eyes. "I'm not a killer by choice. I'm no saint either. You married a woman with blood on her hands. I'd spilled plenty in the war, and after who was I to judge a woman for surviving?" Still Calder's words lodged like splinters, and I wondered what else lay buried. 3 days later, he answered it by kicking in my door. "Time's up," he said, pistol raised. "Hand her over, or I torch the place." Ivy had been mending by the fire, the sack on the table, her face bare in lamplight. She reached for it too late. Calder was quicker. "No use hiding now, sweetheart. I know what you did to my brother." Brother landed like a blow. Ivy went pale, the scar stark as a brand. "He was your brother," she whispered. "Twin," Calder said. "Boone Calder. You butchered him." I lifted my rifle, but his shot cracked first. My arm burned as the round grazed me, blood soaking my sleeve. Ivy lunged, pressing torn cloth to the wound hands, trembling yet sure. She was fighting to live. I shoved her behind me. He was drunk. Harmless Calder spat. She could have run. Could have screamed. Instead, she stood, no sack, no hiding the scar catching firelight. "Your brother tried to rape me," she said, her voice cold as winter iron. "He held me down, ripped my dress, cut my face when I wouldn't stop fighting. I put the knife in his chest because it was him or me." Calder snarled, "Liar." "Ask anyone in Jefferson Hold," she said. "Ask Agnes Whitlow. She saw the blood, saw my dress ripped apart." She lifted her chin. "Your brother was no angel." But Rafe Calder wasn't hearing it. He leveled his pistol at Ivy Blackridge's chest, and something inside me broke clean in two. The promise I'd carried 3 years' faith to a dead woman collapsed like old ash. This woman, scarred and solid and breathing, was here. She was real. She was mine to shield. I slammed into Calder and we crashed down together, knuckles blood, the crash of furniture splintering. Ivy snatched the fire iron and swung, catching Calder across the shoulder and driving him back. "Run," I yelled. She didn't budge. Not this time, she said, feet set like posts. Calder laughed, sour as burnt coffee. "You ready to die for a killer? I'd die for her," I said, and meant every word. But I'd sooner kill for her. My knife kissed his throat close enough to end it forever. "Your call." Calder froze, then lifted his hands. His eyes said it wasn't finished. I trust him with Ivy's own rope, felt right somehow, and rode him in to Sheriff Amos Keene come morning. Ivy walked beside me, no sack, letting the whole town see her face and pass their judgments. Agnes Whitlow waited at the jail, hands tight with nerves, voice steady, as bedrock a woman with kind eyes and a spine of iron. I was there, she told Keene. I saw Ivy stagger from the alley dress, torn blood on her face where Boone Calder cut her. He was twice her size and drunk to the bone. What she did wasn't murder. It was survival. Others stepped forward. A shopkeeper who'd watched Boone drag her into the alley. Doc Bellamy, who'd stitched her face and logged the wounds. Even Preacher Rowe spoke, calling it righteous defense. Calder's tale fell apart like a shack in a hard wind. The warrant dissolved, and with it the shadow that had chased Ivy across 3 states. We buried Boone Calder in the town ground. I won't lie, both of us stood there. Ivy didn't beg forgiveness or shed tears. She said a quiet prayer for a man whose choices wrote his ending. It takes strength to pray for someone who tried to ruin you. That's when I knew the woman I'd married. The reckoning came later back at our cabin with the fire burning low. I need to tell you something, I said, the whiskey loosening my tongue. That cave 3 winters back, the woman who kept the fire alive while I was half dead from cold and an arrow. Ivy's hands stilled on her sewing. I wondered when you'd say it. You saved my life, I said. You saved mine right back, she answered. Fair trade. She set the needle down and sat beside me on the rough bench I'd built. No sack, no hiding. This is me, Ivy said softly, scarred, true, unhidden. That vow you made to your wife, does it still bind? I thought of Miriam Mercer. Gone 4 years, buried where I'd never stand. I remembered the promise to love her always, to let no other in. She's gone, I said at last. Has been a long time, but I'm here. Ivy leaned into my shoulder, her warmth seeping through my shirt. I love you, she said, plain as daylight. Scar and blood past and future whatever came. I took her mouth and sealed it there. The kiss tasted of cinnamon and nerve my palm, finding the raised line of her scar like a map I meant to learn. When we finally came together that night, it wasn't tender talk or promises. It was the fierce need of 2 souls who'd clawed through the dark and found each other breathing. She was gentle where the world had been, cruel, steady where I'd faltered whole, where I'd come apart. We married proper 3 days later, Ivy Blackridge, in a plain dress. She stitched herself hair loose scar, lit by sun, like a hard-won medal. No sack, no hiding, just a woman taking her place. Spring tipped into summer, and we broke ground behind the cabin. Those hands scarred from long ago pulled life from Oregon dirt. Tomatoes and beans, meadow flowers she carried home. A young pine set where it could grow tall after we were gone. Rafe Calder never returned. Last word had him riding south to California, chasing fresh ghosts and old grudges. Some men can't loose their anger. It hollows them out until there's nothing left but bile and empty bottles. Ivy and I chose otherwise. We planted instead of burning. We built instead of tearing down. Time softened the mark on her face. The marks inside me war and loss, and years alone mended cleaner too. Some nights when the fire drops low and pine wind whispers through the logs, she hums, "Oh Shenandoah," the same tune that led me to her, the same song that kept me alive when breathing felt like work. We never had children. We raised hope instead, raised love from ash, raised a life worth keeping in a country where most folks just scraped by. Her scar never dimmed her beauty for me. Hell, it made her truer. We all carry marks from our fights, partner. The lucky ones find someone who reads those marks as proof we lived, not proof we broke. You ask if buying a woman was wrong. Here's the truth: I didn't buy her. I bought her freedom, and she handed me mine right back. Sometimes the best choices look ugly to everyone else. In the end, it wasn't their tale to tell. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for giving your time to this story. Some journeys shape us, and we hope this one left a mark on your heart. There are more paths ahead, more legends of love, hardship, and redemption beneath the western sky. Please subscribe, leave your thoughts, and travel with us once again. Thank you, and God bless. Aviso Legal/Disclaimer. The stories presented here are creative expressions and may mix historical inspiration with dramatized scenes. AI tools contribute to some elements of voice imagery and structure, but every published story is refined by editors and creators to ensure authentic emotional impact. We honor YouTube's policies and do not generate deceptive likenesses or artificial depictions of real people. All audiovisual components are legally licensed. Any use, redistribution, or alteration of this content must be granted through written consent. Your presence here means a lot. Thank you for supporting artistic storytelling.